Hey guys, Jason here from Oklahoma BBQ Supply, and tonight we're going to be doing some competition ribs. And so I'm going to be showing you guys the start to finish process on how to do some competition ribs. We'll have, a little question and answer spot at the bottom of the video. If you guys have any questions, reach out to me afterwards and I'll answer those questions for you. Tonight we're cooking on a Memphis Wood Fire Grill. You'll see that a little bit later in the video, but let's go ahead and get started. So the biggest thing when you want to do competition barbecue is you got to make sure you got everything that you need. My suggestion is that you guys start a list because you're going to get there and you're going to forget something. So I've got a little spreadsheet that has everything that I'm going to need for every category. Like ribs, if you forget apple juice or if you forget tape or butcher paper or any of the other things that we have here, you're going to be, trying to find somebody to go to the store. Hopefully you can get out and get to the store. Sometimes when you go to these competitions, you can't get out once you're in. So you just want to make sure that you have everything. So basically what we're going to do is, first off, great deal on our gloves, guys, that we sell here at Oklahoma BBQ Supply. They're Oklahoma Joe's 50 disposable gloves right here. But the cool thing is they come with the white gloves that go underneath. And if you guys have ever handled hot meat, you understand what these white gloves are for. It'll save you from burning your hands, I can promise you. And so what a great deal at $12.99. So make sure you guys pick some of those up when you're in. We're starting with a spare rib. You guys have all seen these in the store. This is what it's going to look like. And you're going to take it out of the package. It's going to have this flap on it. So basically what we've done is we've came in and we've cut this flap off. And then essentially now you have what we call a St. Louis style rib. And this is what we cook in competition. Spare ribs are great, but they're not good turn-ins for a competition. So we cut this little flap off, and then what we're going to do is we're actually still going to cook this, but we're going to make it rib tips. So then once you get this cut off, what you're going to do is you're going to go back here, and on the back side of your rib is what we call a membrane. And basically what it is it's just a piece of skin. But you don't want to leave that skin on there because if you leave that skin on there, it burns. So the best thing to do is to get a butter knife. If you can't get under it with your fingers, you're just going to latch onto it and you're just going to pull, and you're going to pull it all the way off. And it's all the way across the bone on the back side of this rib. So make sure you get all that off. Once you get all that off, then we're going to do some trimming. And a lot of people don't trim a lot off their ribs, and I really don't either, but you've got to trim a little bit. So make sure you got your good sharp fillet knife. And what you're looking for is you just want to look for pockets of fat. You want to leave a little bit of fat on there and render it because you're going to get some good flavor off of that. But you want to get these pockets, so this big meaty fat right there, you just don't want that on because it's not going to render off and you're going to end up having, a big fatty bite of ribs, which I'm not a big fatty kind of guy, so I want to make sure that I'm getting a big bite of meat instead of fat. Then you're going to flip them over, and then this is where you're going to find a lot of the fat. So I'm going to cut quite a bit of this off. I'll show you what it looks like when we get done cutting it. But you can see here's a big old hunk of fat right here. We're just going to get right in there and dig that thing out. And again, don't spend more than, just a few minutes trimming these. Some people make trimming meat an art, and it doesn't need to be. You should spend no more than just a couple minutes when you're trimming something out. If you're spending more than that, you're trimming too much, or you're just taking too much time. I can pull it off. But like I said, it's hard, especially with ribs, for it to render out because you don't cook the ribs as long as you cook, a brisket or a pork shoulder, so there's not near as much time for it to render out. So that's kind of what we look like after you get all the fat off that you're going to take off and you get the membrane off. Of course, we didn't trim much up here on the front, just trimmed just a little bit because it's a pretty good rack of ribs. So that's essentially, and then you gotta look for bones. I just found a bone. cut that out real quick. All right, and then another thing that a lot of guys do, and we're not gonna do it today, but sometimes if I'm in competition, I'll do it also. You want these rib bones to be as straight as you can possibly get so that you can get a good cut on that rib so that they look good in that box. So what I'll do is, if I've got, the ends, you're not gonna turn in anyway, and if they're not good, I'll cut them down even farther, and then they cook even just a little bit quicker. Like I said, we're not gonna do that today, but you can do that. You can cut them off, cut 2 bones off each end, and then you got a really short set of seamless ribs. With that being said, the next thing that we're gonna work on is getting these bad boys injected. So we've already trimmed out our ribs, so the next process is we're gonna inject, and then we're gonna rub them. So we've got here our injector / spray bottle, Oklahoma Joe's, and I've already made the injection. And so go ahead and tell you what we got. So the basic injection is gonna be 1 cup of apple juice, 100% pure apple juice. You're gonna do a cup of chicken broth, 33% less sodium. And then you're gonna do a cup of 50% less sodium beef broth. And then the last thing you're gonna put in is a tablespoon of granulated garlic. And then you're gonna cook that on the stove. And you don't wanna let it boil, you wanna let it cook. So put it at a low temperature and let it cook for 5 or 10 minutes till it's hot. And then once it's hot, let it sit. It can sit out for about an hour or so to cool down, and then refrigerate it. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it in here, and then we're gonna inject these ribs. And what you wanna do is you wanna get both sides between every knuckle. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab the rib, we're gonna grab this and get it inside between that bone, and then we're gonna squirt it in, and then you're gonna move on to the next knuckle, get it in there, go after it, and you're gonna go all the way up and down both sides. Now, before we got started, we went ahead and injected these, so these have already been done. So once you get both sides done, then you're gonna start your rub. And what we use for rub is very simple. A lot of guys out there, they'll mix a lot of different things together for the rubs and coffee grinder and start using all kinds of crazy combinations. But what we use is right here, Zero to Hero by Eat BBQ. This is Pellet Envy out of Kansas City, a guy named Rod, and this to me is, 1 bottle. That's all you need of this and you're done. So what I'll do is I'll start on the back side. On the back, you don't have to be very liberal. You want to get, a good coat on there, but it doesn't have to be just packed up on there. You're going to take it and just kind of make sure you got an even coat all the way across. You don't want to pack it in there or cake it on or anything like that. We're not physically rubbing it in, but that right there is what you want the back to look like. We're going to flip it over. Now a little bit more on the front. And he makes a bigger bottle of this, and my recommendation is to get the bigger bottle, otherwise you're going through a bunch of these if you're doing any kind of ribs at all. Alright, so that right there is going to be what you kind of want your rib to look like after you get your rub. Move that over in your pan, get that ready to go out. Then we got this rib tip that we talked about, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to soak up some of this rub on the cutting board. And then same thing, just like the top of your rib, not the back, a little bit more on here than you would the back side of the rib. Alright, so that right there is going to be what your rib tip looks like. that in there and get that ready to go out on the smoker. And then before we go out and put this stuff on the smoker, I'm going to go ahead and cover sauce with you guys too. So now my sauce is a mixture of several things. Basically, what we're going to do for sauce is we're going to use 1 cup of Blue Hog Original, 1 cup of original Oklahoma Joe's, a half a cup of Blues Hog Tennessee Red, and then a little over half a bottle of Kosmos Cherry Apple Habanero Glaze. We're going to mix all that into a pan, and we're going to bring it to a soft boil. Make sure you're whisking it and stirring it, otherwise it'll burn because it's got a lot of sugar in it. That's essentially what we're going to use for our sauce. Now, we're not going to sauce until later in the evening, but you want to go ahead and make sure you've got it made. I made up a batch today, so we've got plenty. But so now we're injected. We're ready to go put these things out on the grill. And we're going to put them on, and we're going to let them get to about 140 degrees, and then we're going to wrap them. So that's going to be the next step that I'm going to show you, is wrapping ribs and getting them prepared to finish. All right, guys, so today we're cooking our ribs on this Memphis Wood Fire Grill. It is a Wi-Fi enabled pellet grill, and things pretty slick, as you can see. I already got it fired up, got some ribs on there. You can see the smoke rolling out of it. Good to go on that. But that's what we're using today. Memphis Wi-Fi enabled wood fire grill. You can get yours exclusively here at Oklahoma BBQ Supply in Tulsa. With the ribs face up. See these things, boy, they're already looking good. Already making me hungry. I can smell them, they smell great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our knife, we're gonna get some butter and some honey and some brown sugar. And that's basically what we're gonna use to wrap. So I'm just gonna cut off a little bit of butter here. Slice it up into little cubes. And we're just gonna lay that out across here. Then take one glove off. We're going to bring our honey out. And there's no set amount. I mean, you don't want to overdo it, but get your honey on there. And then the last thing is take some brown sugar. And you can be pretty liberal with the brown sugar. Put your brown sugar on there. You're going to take it, you're just going to kind of work it in to the top of those ribs. And once you get all that worked in, then you flip them over. And then you're going to wrap them. And then you're going to put them back on the smoker, and you're going to put them meat side up so that all that stuff that you just put on there is going to run down over your ribs. So just tighten it up real good. Sometimes the butcher paper can be a little bit of a hassle to get taped, so don't tape in long pieces. Take a short piece here, make sure it's stuck real good, and then just short piece it the rest of the way, guys. You're not in any hurry. It's not a race. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you get this butcher paper tight so that you don't lose any of your liquids or any of your moisture and dry your ribs out. Now, some of you guys are probably asking why or what the difference is of using butcher paper instead of using foil. So, I was a foil guy for a long time. But the problem with foil is it's going to be conductive to heat. So, you're going to end up cooking your meat, making it hotter, wrapping it in foil than what you're going to have wrapping it in butcher paper. So I've switched to butcher paper because you don't lose any of your moisture, your liquid doesn't go anywhere as long as you tape them up good, and it just doesn't get as hot, so it provides a more consistent cook for you when you're using butcher paper. And again, just take your time. It's not a marathon or a race to get them taped up and back on, because you're going to cook them until they get to a certain temperature anyway. So if they cool off a little bit before you put them back on, that's okay. All right, so sealed up on this side, which is what you're going to put up when you put them on your smoker. Sealed good on the back, not going to leak. And that's basically how you wrap your ribs and get them put back in. And we're going to put them back in, and we're going to cook them until they hit the temperature of 205. Once they hit 205, we're going to pull them, let them rest, and then we'll finish them. And we'll be right back. All right, guys, let's go ahead and address these rib tips. We've also pulled a rack of ribs off, so we're going to go through the rest process. So what I've got here is I've got a little container full of sauce, a little brush. We're going to tip these out, and these rib tips sitting at right about 150 degrees. You can see they got a good mark on them, looking real good. We're going to set those out. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna sauce these. So, just get on there with the brush, paint them up real good. Because what we want to do is we want to get this sauce on, get them back on the smoker, and let them caramelize with this sauce on there. And then of course you'll add some more sauce to them when they're done. But just get them painted up real good. Make sure you got a lot of sauce on them. Doesn't hurt. You're just going to take each one of them, be as liberal as you want with the sauce. You don't want much sauce, don't put much on there. You're going to get the smoke flavor with the rib tip. We'll put these back on and we'll let these things get to about 185 internal temperature. And we'll pull them off. They'll be ready to eat. And we're just going to set the sauce to the side. I'm going to show you. We're going to go ahead and let this rack of ribs that we pulled off start to rest. So basically you pull it off, and instead of opening it up, what I like to do is just take the tip of your thermometer, just pull there, pull there, pull there, pull there, and then we're just going to put these back in the pan and we're going to let them set and rest. And then while we're doing that, I'm going to take these rib tips out and put them back on. Alright guys, so now we've got our ribs all rested up. We're going to tear into these bad boys and get them prepped. And I apologize because I didn't get any parsley, so I did not put a competition box together for you guys to see, but you'll get one soon enough here in one of my other videos. I'll show you how to build the box and what it looks like. So we've got a pretty stout knife here. This is what I had today. Normally I'll use an electric knife, but it doesn't matter either way. Let's unwrap these ribs. I'm just going to take this butcher paper off. We're just going to go ahead and start cutting them. Try and get the meat as even as you possibly can on your cut. Look and see Got a good little smoke ring on them right there. Some good looking ribs. And then I talked earlier about maybe having ribs that you wouldn't use. These we wouldn't use. A little bit too burnt on the back side of them. So we would not use those. But these right here would be prime examples of ribs that you would want to put in your box. You'd have to trim them up just a little bit more to get them in your box. But that right there is an ideal rib. And then what we'll do is we're just going to sauce them. And then put a little bit of glaze on them. You want to make sure that you get some sheen. So just grab your brush, get your sauce. All the way around. Doesn't need to be on the bottom. Get you a good healthy coating of your sauce. That's where your flavor's going to come from. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get 4 of our Kosmos rib glaze. We're going to take and put just a little bit of rib glaze on it. Just like that. And then you're going to spread that on there. And then that right there is what you want a competition rib to look like. See how shiny that is? Now what we're going to do is we're just going to sauce the rest of these and put a little glaze on them, and we're going to be eating some ribs, guys. So I appreciate you guys joining me. Reach out to me if you have any questions. Once again, Jason from Oklahoma BBQ Supply. You can check us out on our Facebook page. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.